Well, on Friday, the Virginia Supreme Court struck down the referendum that would have allowed Democrats to redraw the congressional map, saying that the move violated procedural requirements of the state constitution. The ruling was seen by many legal and political experts as an end, at least for now, to the redistricting fight in the Commonwealth. But Democrats reportedly are not giving up. And joining us now here this afternoon is Dr. Cayce Myers, professor at Virginia Tech, who has been closely following this story and its many twists and turns. Professor, you were with us at the end of your week last week talking about this. Thanks for being with us here on this Monday to talk about this.
Well, thank you for having me.
Of course, and we want to give some context. We're talking about this New York Times article about what is a very extreme proposal being floated by Democrats. Can you walk us through exactly what is being considered?
Well, there's a conversation going on about obviously appealing the decision, but also a conversation around, could there be a change to the composition of Virginia's Supreme Court? Could there be mandatory retirement ages that then change, and then that somehow resolve this issue? All of these seem to be kind of floating in the air right now, and honestly would be, aside from just a regular appeal, very politically unique. And what kind of agreement is around that seems to be unclear as well. But again, this is a significant, I think, a significant injury to the Democratic attempts to redraw the districts in Virginia and obviously the resulting 2026 midterm elections.
Yeah, you mentioned just how unique this is. Is this possible for this to happen? I know timing was mentioned as being a huge factor. Could it happen actually in time for the November midterms?
That's a great question that it really doesn't have a clear answer. One of the things that we were looking at in Virginia when this was coming out is what is the timeline to register as a candidate? And we were looking at that, which is a late May deadline. And could you have candidates kind of know what districts they're even running in? And then, of course, you have early voting that starts, and then you have election day. So, again, all of these kind of redistricting efforts have run up against this kind of very fast clock that's going for the 2026 midterms. Could that happen is really, I think, up for debate.
Yeah, and then from the Democrat side of this, obviously reshaping a court, that's a pretty significant conversation. Please talk to us about the downside of trying to reshape the state Supreme Court, because you mentioned it there at the top, lowering even this idea of lowering the retirement age, possibly, I think I read, to 54. Talk to us about the negatives.
Well, the negatives would be political negatives even within maybe even Democrats in Virginia. So what we're looking at here is a restructuring that would be potentially not even supported by members of the Democratic Party, maybe not even supported by voters. And again, in the past, if you look at efforts to reshape Supreme Courts, that has always been sort of a politically unpopular thing. There are those who are for it, obviously, but there are many people that feel like that just really goes a bridge too far. And there seems to be this sense that the independent judiciary should be preserved and it should be politicized in this way. Again, is there a political willpower to do that? Is there a possibility of doing that? And then long term, what are the political consequences? I think those are things all that remain to be seen and something that Democrats are concerned about.
Yeah, so many questions around this idea being spoken about right now. We've seen both parties, though, use redistricting to try to squeeze more seats in their favor. Republicans now trying to redraw Louisiana and Tennessee after a U.S. Supreme Court ruling that race cannot be a primary factor in drawing districts. How much do you think that's driving Virginia Democrats to explore some of these, what may even seem like extreme options?
So it's an interesting thing. In Virginia, one of the things that was really kind of articulated around the referendum was the national consequences of the midterm elections in the House of Representation, a House of Representatives representation by Democrats and Republicans vis-a-vis districts. One of the Republican talking points was really, is this representative of Virginia? Is this representative particularly of Southwest Virginia? But again, this has been a national conversation and a national effort. The redistricting in other states follows a different process and is a byproduct of a Supreme Court case that came out of Louisiana. But again, that came out of the Supreme Court involving Louisiana districts. So one of the things that we'll see here is maybe this doesn't fully kind of materialize as a new map until 2028. And we're looking at this kind of long term, what are the implications going to be?
Looking long term, of course, maybe not even in the next few weeks here. Dr. Cayce Myers, a professor at Virginia Tech, thank you so much for joining us again with your expertise and insight. We always learn a lot.
Thank you.
All right.